Hey, what's up? Husman here, and I'm a little bit under the weather today. I'm having a bit of a cold, a little bit of a stuffed face. Everything is a bit stuffed up, which is not so nice, but still gonna power through this tutorial for you guys because I got a really cool tutorial for you today. This tutorial is actually for you DJs out there. So say you got an amazing gig lined up and you want to put that epic hit song that you've created into an intro edit. So to really make great impression to the crowd from the beginning. So I thought it would be a fun tutorial to show you guys how I go about my DJ intros, my intro edits of my tracks. So that's what we're gonna do today. So for this tutorial, I've used the track Mad King. Mad King has been my intro for a few weeks, months in the last year. And I thought, let's look into how I made the intro edit from Mad King. Now, first thing that you should think about when making an intro is that what you want to tell the audience what kind of impression that you want to start off your set with. Are you like a techno producer, you want to just start grooving? Are you a big room producer who just wants to start with a bang from the beginning? Personally, I really like to start off mysteriously, creating a bit of curiosity amongst the audience. So what I usually do, I always take some stuff from the track that I want to use as an intro, take it apart and really start creating new melodies, new rhythms, slow everything down from that track. So for Mad King there is one chord section which I really like, which is this one. So what I did next, I added some piano to this. I normally would take stuff from the original melody, but for this one I really like to have something that starts off really slow with not a lot of notes, and then build up towards a sort of an arpeggio going upwards towards the first build up of that track. So I started with this piano layer. And then comes the fun part for the beginning 8 bars of this intro edit. And that's the contact library Thrill, which is a terrible thing for me to say. Thrill. And it's basically a weird effects kind of cinematic contact library where you can really play around with all the little modulation of the sound. And then in the end, with some tweaking and some live recording, I came up with something like this. Which in combination with the piano layer sets a really cool tone. Afterwards, like the first 8 bars are pretty static kind of rhythm. Afterwards I really want to bring in some harmonics, so I looked for some strings, I looked for some brass, I looked for some flutes, and then I made a pattern which started building upwards. Now, to accompany all those new orchestral elements, I wanted to have something that's still recognizable from the original, which was this vocal. So now we got a lot of elements already to set the tone for this upcoming set and this upcoming track. The next thing that I always like to do when creating my intros or my breakdowns is to build some tension. And I'm not that big of a fan of those big orchestral drums, because for me, since I always think about my music to be a little bit more futuristic, a little bit more sci-fi, I think those orchestral drums sound really medieval, really still really impressive, but they don't give that futuristic feel for me. So what I always try to do is look for some different kind of samples, and I found some drum samples from a sci-fi pack, which for me had some kind of a walk of an epic big robotic machine, which keeps going faster and faster towards the end of the breakdown. So this really starts building this intro edit. Now the next thing that I really like is that I found on the Spitfire Labs, those guys which make really great orchestral libraries. And it's the triple felt piano from Christian Hansen. And he basically put like a cloth or something between the... Yeah, I don't have a lot of knowledge about these kind of names when it comes to instruments. But you basically have the thing in the piano, which hits the other thing in the piano, and that makes the noise of the piano. And he basically put like a cloth in between the first thing to the second thing, which gives it this kind of really interesting sound. This gives a really cool, mysterious vibe going for just a piano. And the next thing that we're gonna do is add a lot of effects. So I got a lot of cool little elements, sweeps, hits, background effects, all kind of things to make this more interesting. And then it's all about building tension with all the notes. Make sure that everything is harmoniously bringing us towards an ending, and then ending with a really big Hans Zimmer kind of brass before going into the actual intro towards the main first drop of Mad King. And then the icing on the cake is to add some additional drums which really start building everything up. When you look at this whole break kind of intro build up, you see that it's all about building tension. I start with something which has a lot of open spaces where you can let your own imagination loose, and then afterwards I'm really gonna drive you and the listener into a certain direction before the big payoff. And for me, this kind of build up is something that I like to do in my own tracks. For me personally, every track has its own story. It has a beginning, a main part and an ending, and I really like to do that into my breakdowns as well. To start small, explaining the story, where we're going with this track, and then building up towards that big hands in the air moment. Now this is one way to do it. There are of course a lot of things and ways to do intros and breakdowns. Another cool tip that I would like to give you is to halve the tempo of one of your melodies and then just take notes out and then start bringing notes back, and just use different kind of rhythm, different kind of BPM, different kind of instruments playing different kind of sections, and just experiment, try out some stuff, and the thing that I always try to keep in my back of my head is what's the story, what I like to tell, what's the place where the story is being told. Like for instance, this is a science fiction kind of song, so I use science fiction sounds. For instance, like with Epidemic, the track I did with Sabers, we had a horror theme in mind, so we really thought about sounds which gave that horror kind of vibe. And you see that as well with the Hans Zimmer songs, the Pirates of the Caribbean, use piratey stuff, piratey melodies, and that's the thing. Just know which story you want to tell and just try to find sounds that fit with that story really well and just experiment, have a lot of fun. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I do, hit that like button. If you haven't already subscribed, there's also a bell you can hit if you want to stay notified whenever I upload a new video. And then I see you guys on the next video. I think that was it, what I wanted to tell today. So, take care. Bye bye.